Have you ever wondered why you work harder every year, but never seem to get ahead? What if I told you that the entire financial system, the one you were born into, raised to trust and taught to obey, was never designed for your success, but for your submission? Right now, as you watch this, 95% of the world's wealth is being controlled by less than 1% of the population. And it's not because they're smarter, it's not because they work harder. It's because they understand something that you were never allowed to learn. This isn't just about money, this is about power, control, and a code so deeply embedded in society that you've mistaken it for reality. From birth, you've been plugged into a system engineered by the elite, a system that programs you to serve, obey, and consume. You've been taught that financial freedom comes from education and hard work. That success is a reward for effort. But here's the truth they never wanted you to see. The system is not broken. It's functioning exactly as it was designed to, and you, like billions of others, are trapped inside it. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy blueprint, quiet, sophisticated, ruthless. While you trade your time for paychecks and your dreams for survival, the ultra-wealthy move in silence, pulling strings, rewriting rules, and stacking wealth on top of wealth, behind closed doors, shielded by legal complexity, and hidden behind the illusion of democracy. They don't play the same game, they own the game board, and you were never supposed to know the rules. Banks, media, education, government, every institution that shapes your thoughts and decisions is part of the same intricate machine, a machine that extracts your energy, your belief, and your future. You were programmed to obey, to fear change, to reject the idea that the system could be manipulated, until now. Because once you start asking the real questions, you'll see the cracks. Why do the rich never lose, even during global crises? Why do billionaires get richer when economies collapse? Why are some secrets too dangerous to teach in schools? These aren't coincidences, they're designs. And those who control the design control the world. You've been asleep, trained to believe that comfort equals freedom, but comfort is the cage. And wealth? Wealth is not created in the light, it's engineered in the shadows. This is your moment, the beginning of the unraveling. Not everything you're about to hear will make sense at first, and some of it will sound unbelievable. That's exactly how the system protects itself, through your doubt, through your silence, through your fear of being wrong. But once you open your eyes, you can never close them again. So stay with me, because what you're about to discover may not only change how you see the world, it may unlock a truth that was buried beneath your reality from the day you were born. Let's pull back the curtain. Let's decode the secret system that governs your money, your freedom, and your future. But first, we need to understand how this all began. Before we go any further, I want you to pause for just one moment. Because what we're uncovering here isn't just about strategy. It's not just economics or politics or history. This is spiritual warfare. This is about reclaiming your power in a world that was designed to keep you powerless. And in battles like these, the deepest, most silent wars, you don't fight alone. So right now in the comments, I want you to write a simple sentence. Pray for me. I'm ready to wake up. Because we will pray for you. As a community, we don't just expose darkness, we cover each other with light. Every name, every comment will be lifted in intention, in strength, in awakening. This is how we fight back, together. And if this message is already resonating with something deep inside you, something that's been whispering for years that something is off, then don't let this be just another video. Leave a like, subscribe, not just for the algorithm, but because this is a movement, and you were called to be part of it. The truth is no longer hidden. The system is being revealed. Now, let's dive into how this elite network was built, and why 95% of the world's wealth is still in their hands. The answer will disturb you. They never meant for you to find this. From the moment you were born, your reality was engineered, not to liberate you, but to contain you. Every structure you trust, your education, your job, your government, your bank, was designed by the same architects. A class so elite, so untouchable, they don't just control the system, they are the system. And you were programmed to believe in it. But what if everything you've been taught about money, freedom, and success was a lie? While you sat in classrooms memorizing outdated formulas and false histories, the real education, the dark knowledge, was passed down in closed rooms, behind velvet curtains, through bloodlines and oaths. The elite don't operate in chaos. They move with precision, guided by ancient rules and financial rituals that most people will never even hear about, let alone understand. There is a secret code, buried so deep within society that you breathe it without knowing, a pattern that repeats across nations and centuries, crisis after crisis, collapse after collapse, recession, war, debt, fear, and always, without fail, a new transfer of wealth, upward, always upward. Why? Because the game was never meant to be fair. They created a world where you're too distracted to question, too tired to rebel, too in debt to escape, a world where your labor feeds their legacy, where your beliefs have been carefully shaped to serve their agenda. You're told to chase degrees, accumulate credit, buy things you don't need, all while the real power, the economic power, slips further out of your reach. But here's the part that should disturb you the most. They don't need your money. They need your obedience. That's why the rules are invisible. That's why the matrix feels comfortable. Because if you never question it, they never need to fight you. Think about it. Why does every financial crisis leave billionaires richer while the middle class collapses? Why do the same names appear behind the scenes of every global institution? Why are entire nations enslaved by debt to private entities, no one elected? Because wealth isn't just about money, it's about control. The ability to shape culture, dictate truth, and rewrite the future. And you were never supposed to see this. There's a reason why most people never escape the rat race. It's not lack of effort. It's the system. A system rooted in financial slavery, where debt is sold as opportunity, and silence is bought with comfort. The elites understood long ago, if you control the flow of money, you control the direction of humanity. You think you're free because you can choose between brands, vote every 4 years, and post your opinions online. But true freedom? That was stripped from you generations ago, carefully, quietly, legally. They built a prison without walls, and you're living in it. The most dangerous kind of manipulation is the kind that feels like freedom. There are no chains, no whips, no dictators, just laws, contracts, credit scores, psychological warfare wrapped in entertainment, propaganda dressed as information. And it's working. Ask yourself, why do those who speak the truth get silenced? Why are whistleblowers exiled, ridiculed, erased? Because this isn't just an economic conspiracy, it's spiritual warfare, the war for your perception, your consciousness, your soul. And while the world argues over politics and identity, the elite accumulate land, gold, resources, and something even more powerful, your attention. They want you hypnotized, hooked, numb, because a distracted mind is a controlled mind. But now, something is shifting. The veil is thinning. More people are starting to see the patterns, to feel the cracks in the illusion. Maybe that's why you're here. Maybe deep down, a part of you already knows. This isn't how life was meant to be. You were never meant to live in quiet desperation. You were never meant to be programmed to serve. You were never meant to stay asleep. And yet, you were trained to reject anything that sounds like this, to mock it, dismiss it, call it crazy. That's how deep the programming goes. Still think this is just coincidence? Look around. The same corporations own your media, your food, your water, your medicine. The same dynasties fund wars and relief. The same families rise generation after generation, untouched by the chaos that swallows the rest of the world. Who gave them that power? Who let them write the rules? Why is no one talking about this? Because they control everything, and they don't want you to know this, but now it's too late to unsee. The cracks are showing, the patterns are undeniable, and what comes next will reveal the part of the system they've worked hardest to keep hidden. Because once you see the code, you can never go back. His name could be John, a quiet man, hard-working, honest. Every day he wakes up before the sun, commutes through chaos, trades hours of his life for a wage that barely holds the pieces together. Rent, gas, groceries, debt, repeat. He does everything right, plays by the rules, pays his taxes, stays out of trouble, and still, he's drowning. John earns just enough to survive, but never enough to escape. He believes that if he just works harder, longer, more obediently, something will eventually change. That success is a reward waiting for those who grind. But years go by, and the math never adds up. The promotions don't come. The cost of living keeps rising, and the light at the end of the tunnel, always just out of reach. It's not that John is lazy. It's not that he made the wrong choices. It's that he was never told the truth. Because the truth is, the system was never designed for people like John to win. This is the reality for millions. a reality built not on accidents, but on designs. Every financial trap he walks into, the high-interest credit card, the 30-year mortgage, the student loan that never dies, was placed there on purpose. These aren't flaws in the system. They are the system, a hidden framework engineered by unseen power. A machine so refined, so deeply embedded in daily life, that most people will die inside of it without ever realizing they were trapped. You weren't born into freedom. You were born into a financial cage, invisible and elegant, wrapped in the illusion of opportunity. The elite learned long ago that the most efficient way to control people is not with chains, but with dreams. Sell them a vision of success, then make that vision just expensive enough that they spend their entire lives chasing it, but never catching it. It's not slavery of the body, it's slavery of the mind. You were told to go to school, get a degree, get a job, buy a house. But the moment you did, you stepped into a debt cycle that feeds the machine. Every dollar you earn is already spoken for. Every hour you work enriches someone you'll never meet. Every choice you make is shaped by pressures you didn't choose. This is manipulated reality, the modern matrix, a carefully scripted simulation where your value is measured by your output, your silence, your compliance. And the ones pulling the strings, they don't live by these rules, they write them. The billionaires who preach hard work haven't worked a real job in decades. The politicians who speak of fairness own offshore accounts. The banks that tell you to save are gambling with trillions behind closed doors. Meanwhile, John, and millions like him, are punished for being ordinary, for believing in a promise that was never real. This isn't just economic conspiracy. This is spiritual control. Because what they've really taken isn't just money, it's time. Time is your most precious resource, and they've taught you to trade it cheaply. 8 hours a day, 40 years. Retire at 65 if you're lucky. All so you can finally live, when life has already passed you by, but by then you're too tired to fight, too conditioned to question, and too invested in the lie to break free from it. This is the trap, a cycle repeated across generations. A code passed down in whispers, among families who rule in silence. They don't need to threaten you, they just need you to stay asleep. That's why this truth feels dangerous. Because it is. It threatens their control, their agenda, their mask. The elite fear one thing more than revolution: awareness. Because awareness leads to questions, and questions lead to patterns, and patterns expose power. Why does John's salary stagnate while inflation soars? Why is debt normalized but wealth education hidden? Why are billions spent on distraction but none on liberation? Because you were never meant to be independent. You were meant to be useful, predictable, profitable. But now, something is shifting. Cracks are forming in the illusion. People are waking up, questioning what they were told, what they were sold. The false promises, the manipulated statistics, the smiling faces on TV feeding scripted hope. You feel it, don't you? That something's off, that beneath the surface of this polished world lies an ancient structure, a coded hierarchy, a system passed through blood and ritual, a wealth code encrypted into law, tradition and culture, always working, always extracting. They call it capitalism. But in truth, it's controlled imbalance. They call it freedom, but it's permission, granted and revoked by unseen hands, and they call it progress. But the only thing progressing is the concentration of power into fewer and fewer hands. The rest? They're taught to be grateful for scraps. So ask yourself, when was the last time you made the rules? And more importantly, what happens when you break them? Because the next layer goes deeper. Beneath the banks, behind the markets, into the rituals, alliances and symbols that hold it all together. You've seen the effects. Now it's time to uncover the architecture. They didn't just steal your time, they rewired your mind. From the first day you entered a classroom, they began shaping the way you see the world. Not to empower you, but to program you. You were never taught how money actually works. You were trained to serve money, not command it. To obey systems, not question them. To chase security, not sovereignty. This was not an accident. It was a strategic design. You memorized dates, recited pledges, solved equations, but they never taught you how to build wealth, never taught you how compound interest works for the rich, never taught you the real reason debt exists. You were handed a roadmap that leads to nowhere, a deliberately broken path paved by the elite to keep you in motion, but never in control. Because when you're always busy surviving, you never stop to ask, who created the game I'm playing? The answer is more terrifying than most can handle. There exists a secret code, not written in books or taught in universities, but passed quietly among those who understand how the real system operates. It's not about hard work. It's about leverage. It's not about education. It's about access. Not about fairness, but control. The elite don't labor for money. They create systems where money labors for them. While you're working 40 hours a week just to meet bills, they're collecting millions through assets you've never even heard of. While you check your bank account in fear, they move funds across continents, in tax havens, in offshore trusts, behind corporate veils. While you worry about credit scores, they own the algorithms that dictate them. And still they tell you, just work harder. You've heard it your entire life. That wealth is a product of effort. But here's the truth they'll never say out loud. The system isn't based on merit. It's based on manipulation. The school system? Built during the Industrial Revolution to produce obedient workers. The financial system? Engineered to benefit those who own capital, not those who earn it. The media? A distraction machine, keeping you emotionally reactive and intellectually numb. You were born into a matrix, wrapped in promises of freedom, while every structure around you was designed to extract your labor, your attention, and your will. They made you believe that security equals success, that debt equals progress, that jobs equal purpose. But purpose can't be outsourced, and security isn't freedom, it's a leash. They want you tired, they want you compliant, they want you to believe that this is just how life works. But ask yourself, if this system really worked, why does the average American live paycheck to paycheck? Why are anxiety and depression at all-time highs in the most advanced economy on Earth? Why do billionaires always profit during global crises? Because they wrote the crisis into the script. Control the media, control the currency, control the narrative, and you control the perception of reality itself. You see a market crash, they see an opportunity to buy the world at a discount. You see inflation, they see wealth transfer, you see freedom. They see a distracted population, unaware, pacified, and fully monetized. While you're counting hours, they're counting power. And this isn't just economics. This is spiritual warfare, a silent war on your perception, your energy, your truth. Because as long as you believe the lie, that your value comes from productivity, that your identity is tied to a paycheck, you'll never see the bars of the cage you were born into. The system taught you how to be an employee, but never how to be free. Now think about that. Think about how deeply that belief has been installed. How much of your life has been defined by their blueprint? What dreams did you sacrifice because they didn't fit the model? What talents did you silence because they weren't profitable? And what if, just what if, the struggle you've blamed on yourself all this time was actually engineered? It's not that you failed the system. It's that the system was never built for you to succeed. They control everything. Say it again, let it sink in. Because once you understand that your reality was shaped by invisible hands, everything starts to make sense. The long hours, the constant scarcity, the pressure to conform, the shame when you fall short, even though the game was rigged from the start. You were programmed to believe that wealth is rare, that only a select few deserve it, that the only way out is to work harder than everyone else. But they never told you the real secret. The money isn't in the work, it's in the system around the work, and they own the system. While you chase income, they accumulate assets. While you pay taxes, they fund campaigns to rewrite the laws. While you chase approval, they rewrite culture itself. This isn't a broken model. It's a hidden hierarchy, perfectly intact, perfectly protected, and entirely intentional. But now the cracks are showing, the silence is fading, and those who were once asleep are starting to question why their life feels like a cage with invisible bars. This can't stay hidden forever, because once the illusion breaks, there's no turning back. You start to see the rituals behind the institutions, the symbols etched in architecture, the patterns behind every crash, every war, every sudden shift of wealth. You begin to understand that this was never about freedom, it was about compliance. And the moment you reject their reality, you begin to reclaim your own. But you're not supposed to know this yet, not until you're ready for what comes next. They don't play by the rules you were taught, because those rules weren't written for them. They were written by them, quietly, ruthlessly, and you followed them your entire life without ever questioning who holds the pen. There is a system, but it's not the one you see on television or read about in school books. It's not the polished fantasy politicians feed you or the model preached by self-help gurus. That's theater, a performance designed to keep you compliant. The real system is silent, ancient, engineered, a hidden network of control, passed down not through elections, but through bloodlines, bonds, and secrets. This is the system of the billionaires, and you were never meant to see it. While the masses are taught to obey, to compete, to survive, the elite are taught something else entirely: how to rule. They are initiated into the dark knowledge, the rituals, codes, and unwritten laws that govern global power, not taught in classrooms, but whispered in private chambers, not recorded in history, but etched into legacy. They don't have jobs, they have influence. They don't earn salaries, they control flows, money, information, fear, hope, all of it, calibrated like dials behind a one-way mirror. You never see them, but they see everything. What you call a financial crisis, they call a harvest. What you call inflation, they call reallocation. While you panic, they position. While you react, they plan. Every collapse, every emergency, every unforeseen global disaster is followed by the same outcome: a transfer of wealth upwards. And every time, the middle class shrinks. Every time, new rules are written: tighter control, more dependence, less freedom. This is not coincidence, this is the model. Consider this. During global wars, the Rothschilds expanded their financial empire across Europe, financing both sides. During economic crashes, modern billionaires buy land, gold, and entire industries, while the average person scrambles to cover rent. When a virus swept across the planet and businesses shut down, the wealthiest families on Earth added trillions to their portfolios. Not because they were lucky, but because they understand the code, a secret code, unspoken but enforced, unwritten but absolute. It's the reason the same families appear in power generation after generation. It's why presidents come and go, but central banks remain. It's why you can't vote away the World Economic Forum or the IMF, because they are not part of the democratic illusion. They run the architecture behind it. You were told the system is fair. That hard work is the path to success. That education opens doors. That justice is blind. But deep down, you've always known something was off. Now it makes sense. You feel the weight of something invisible, something watching, orchestrating, adjusting. That's not paranoia. It's perception, finally breaking through the programming. You see the headlines: record profits, global shortages, unprecedented bailouts. And you wonder, how can both things be true at once? Simple, because the matrix was never meant to balance. It was meant to exploit. You're inside a simulation of choice, where every option keeps you inside the loop. Go left, go right, buy this, vote that. But the outcome remains the same. You stay busy, distracted, and divided. While they consolidate, this is not new. This is the real history they never taught you. The ruling class has always used the same tools: scarcity to keep you desperate, fear to keep you obedient, and ignorance to keep you docile. They don't need to control everyone. They just need to control you. Your time, your focus, your future. The wealthiest people don't just build businesses. They build systems of control, corporate monopolies, globalist think tanks, NGOs that operate like shadow governments, media empires that shape your beliefs, foundations that influence policy under the guise of philanthropy, and behind it all, a code, a ritual of power so well protected, so deeply embedded into your world, that most people defend it without ever realizing they're enslaved by it. It's the reason generational wealth doesn't just survive, it multiplies. It's the reason taxes burden workers, but not dynasties. It's why debt is offered like candy to the poor, but credit is a weapon for the elite. It's the ritual of money, not as currency, but as a tool of domination. They understand something you were never meant to see. Money is not real, but control is. And once they control your relationship with money, they control you. You were conditioned to chase income while they accumulate assets. You were conditioned to fear risk while they thrive in volatility. You were conditioned to believe in equality while they engineer hierarchies that can't be seen. This is invisible control. This is financial slavery repackaged as freedom. And just like a magician distracts you with one hand while the other performs the trick, the elite distract you with outrage, entertainment, and crises while quietly tightening their grip. You scroll, they strategize. You consume, they consolidate. You survive, they ascend. But this truth can't stay hidden forever, and once you begin to see it, you can't unsee it. Because once you understand that every system around you, education, healthcare, finance, media, politics, was designed to condition obedience and suppress sovereignty, you begin to wake up. You begin to see the world not as it is portrayed, but as it truly is. Every loan, a leash. Every law, a gate. Every promise, a distraction. They control everything. Say it again. Feel the weight of it, because it's the only way to break the illusion. You were never free. You were simply unaware of the cage. But even cages have doors and hidden, locked, encrypted. And the key? The knowledge they buried, the strategies they hoarded, the truths they feared would spread. What if the code could be broken? What if you could see the map they've used for centuries and use it against them? Because behind every shadow is a shape, behind every lie, a pattern. And once you know what to look for, the empire begins to unravel before your eyes. And what's coming next will take us even deeper. Beneath the vaults, behind the masks, into the rituals and bloodlines they've protected for generations. And now, here you are, face to face with a truth most never reach. You've seen the surface crack. You've felt the weight of the system pressing in from every side. The headlines were never random. The crises were never accidents. The inequality was never a bug in the system. It was always the design. And now that you've opened your eyes, it's impossible to close them again, because what we've just exposed is only the first layer, the visible machinery, the external mechanisms of a global agenda. Banks, corporations, governments, those are just the hands of the system. But the mind behind it, the part that truly enslaves you, that lives inside you, and that is where we go next. See, it's not enough to trap your body. The most effective form of control is psychological, a kind of programming so subtle, so complete, that you defend it without knowing. You rationalize your own confinement. You sabotage your own freedom. You repeat the very lies that bind you. Not because you're weak, but because you were trained to. This training didn't begin when you got your first job, or your first debt. It didn't begin with taxes or inflation or economic policies. It began when you were a child, before you could choose, before you could question. From the moment you learned to walk, speak, behave, they were already at work. The programming of poverty begins early, and it's not just about money, it's the language. Money doesn't grow on trees. It's the fear. You have to be realistic. It's the shame. Who do you think you are to want more? These aren't just sayings, they are commands, installed into your subconscious like malware, passed down through families, reinforced by schools, echoed by media, a cultural hypnosis, a generational spell. And once installed, it doesn't matter what country you live in, what job you have, or how intelligent you are. The code runs, silently, relentlessly. That's how you keep billions of people enslaved, not with chains, but with thoughts. You were taught to equate struggle with virtue, to glorify sacrifice, to believe that wanting more is greed, that ambition is arrogance, that comfort is enough, that freedom is selfish, that wealth is reserved for them, the elite, the powerful, the chosen few. But here's the secret they've buried under centuries of misdirection. You were never meant to be poor. You were simply trained to stay that way. There is a difference between being broke and being programmed. And that's where the real game unfolds, in your inner world. Because if they can control how you think, how you feel, how you value yourself, they never need to lift a finger. You'll stay in line. You'll keep producing. You'll keep doubting. And if someone dares to wake you up, you'll silence them. That's how deep the matrix runs, and who benefits from this obedience? The same elite families we just unmasked. The ones who don't tell their children to play it safe. The ones who don't teach their heirs to trade time for money. The ones who don't believe in the scarcity they sell to the rest of the world. While you were told to save, they were taught to invest. While you were told to work harder, they learned how to control systems. While you were told to be humble, they were trained to rule. This is the hidden truth of generational wealth. It's not just about inheritance, it's about belief systems. They pass down a mindset of power while feeding the world a diet of limitation. And now, for the first time, you see the blueprint. You've seen how economic power is used to shape nations, how rituals of control operate in the shadows, how the billionaire class doesn't adapt to crisis. They engineer it. And how every law, every tax, every rule is designed to keep them ascending while the rest descend. But all of that, all the corruption, manipulation, and greed is still outside you. The most dangerous part of the system is what lives inside your mind. The conditioning, the programming, the voice that tells you you can't, you're not ready. This is just how life is. That voice, that's them. That's their most powerful weapon. And that's exactly what we'll confront next. Because once you understand how they installed the code, how they made poverty feel normal, how they disguised compliance as virtue, how they trained you to think like a servant in a world ruled by kings, you'll never see yourself the same again. This is more than financial slavery. This is spiritual warfare. They've hijacked your will, your identity, your vision for your life. And the greatest illusion of all, they convinced you it was your idea. But you're not here by accident. If you've watched this far, you already feel it. That pull, that fire, that quiet scream inside you that says, this isn't how life is supposed to be. And you're right. You weren't born to obey. You weren't born to survive. You weren't born to serve a system you didn't choose. You were born to break it, but first, and you must understand it, not just how it looks, but how it thinks. Because once you decode the mental blueprint, once you dismantle the invisible cage built around your mind, the system loses its grip on you, forever. In the next video, we're going deeper. We'll expose how the programming was implanted, the elite code, the framework that traps you without bars, the thoughts that aren't yours, the poverty that isn't your fault, the rules you never agreed to, but were forced to live by. You'll finally understand why you feel stuck, why you self-sabotage, why the closer you get to change, the more resistance shows up, and you'll see how to reclaim what they took from you, piece by piece. Until then, I want you to do something simple, but powerful. If this message shook something inside you, even just a little, if you saw yourself in this story or recognized the system behind the curtain, then say it out loud in the comments. Write, "This can't stay hidden forever," or just, "I was never free," because sometimes the act of naming the truth is what begins the healing. Tell me, what part of this woke you up the most? What hit you the hardest? And are you ready for the next layer of the truth? If you are, then subscribe. Stay with me, because what comes next changes everything. The next chapter is called Programmed to be Poor, the elite code that keeps you trapped in the system. And once you hear what they've done to your mind, you'll never think the same way again. If you made it this far, it's not by accident. Something inside you knows this system isn't what it seems. You've felt it. You've lived it. You've been lied to for long enough. Now you're awake, or at least starting to wake up. So if this message hit you, if something clicked inside you that refused to stay asleep, here's what you do now. Subscribe to the channel, because what's coming next goes deeper than anything we've revealed so far. And if you stayed until the very end, I want you to leave a comment below. Write exactly this: I was never free. Those 4 words will tell me, and the algorithm, that you're one of us, one of the few who see through the illusion. Hit like if this video opened your eyes. Every click helps spread this truth to someone who's still trapped. And don't stop here. The next piece of the puzzle is already waiting for you. It's on your screen right now. Programmed to be poor, the elite code that keeps you trapped in the system. They've controlled your money. They've shaped your beliefs. But now, it's time to break the code. Let's continue.